Prabhupada was, nothing changed. He wasn't thinking, oh, now I'm speaking in front of millions. Because Prabhupada was thinking of Krishna and speaking before Krishna. Prabhupada was very bold to say we didn't go to the moon. I mean, that was something we all saw on TV, how they landed, and Prabhupada said, no, they didn't go. That was bold. And so many examples of Prabhupada being bold when they called him dogmatic because he was saying that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead instead of being open to different views and so on, and let everyone have their own idea about Krishna, about who's the Supreme Lord. So they called him dogmatic, because he was just sticking to Krishna, not open to others. And Prabhupada's response was, why are they so dogmatically saying that Krishna is not God when they haven't seen him? Taking it to another level, taking it to a level beyond belief, taking it to a level of actually seeing Krishna, knowing that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of God. Therefore, Prabhupada's boldness was rooted deeply in direct experience of Krishna, deeply rooted in the scripture, deeply rooted in his faith that whatever it said in Bhagavatam, it was truth. And if Bhagavatam says the moon is further away than the sun, then they didn't go to the moon. As simple as that. Because Bhagavatam says so. So his boldness had deep roots in scripture. And therefore his boldness was appropriate because he was speaking the absolute truth. Boldness in itself is not necessarily a great quality if one is not speaking the absolute truth. We also see that along with this boldness, Prabhupada had humility. The combination of the two is very important. Prabhupada also said, a lion on the chase and a lamb at home. So to have both, one can be very bold and disrespect the Vaishnavas. In dealing with the Vaishnavas, one has to deal with humility and respect. Then boldness is not at all appropriate. So there's a time and place. Lion on the chase. Yes, in preaching, we must speak out boldly to point out when something is wrong. But in dealing with the Vaishnavas, one must be able to be humble and be able to be respectful. So this combination we see in Srila Prabhupada. Upstairs where I stay in the room, there is one of my favorite pictures of Prabhupada, which is where he sits on this silver throne. Who took that picture? Guchra? Bhargava. It's an amazing picture because that throne, it's a monster of a silver throne, really, very big. And Prabhupada is sitting there, and well, what I'm reading from his expression is apologetic. His face says, I know, it's a monster of a throne. No human being should sit on such a seat. But what can I do? Hands full, what can I do? It's my duty. So like this, not just sitting there on the big throne, no. He was bold at times and yet humble at other times. And the combination of these two made his boldness pure. It made it inspiring. If someone would just say, we'll be bold, then that wouldn't work. as far as linking that to the activities of Pandavasena and K.C. Sok, yes, the same thing, in-house, a mood of humble exchange, but in dealings with the world, bold to present Krishna everywhere. It means to be fearless. Prabhupada was Abhay Charan. He was fearless. He was ready to present Krishna everywhere, at every opportunity, never hesitant. So as soon as we speak about boldly representing Krishna consciousness, we naturally will look at Srila Prabhupada, and we are we're obviously not fearless, we're obviously a little intimidated. It's like when you're in some big TV studio, then there are like 5 cameras on you, from all sides. Cameras from the bottom, all over, cameras, and the millions are hearing, and it's a little intimidating. Nowadays, you don't even have to be on TV. There's like all these phones, they're probably recording, and it's being filmed, and maybe they're also twice from different angles. It's going to be posted all over the internet. It's going to be alive even after I'm dead and gone. But Prabhupada was not concerned with such things. In Amsterdam, the installation of the deities was a difficult situation. First of all, the devotees had just lost their temple before Prabhupada came, and they didn't want to tell him because then he wouldn't come. So they just were desperately looking for a temple, couldn't find anything, finally found a place where they store vegetables. Some or other just street tiles on the floor, no windows, just a little roof, plastic roof light, that was it. Anyway, they somehow or other made a floor and made a temple and made an altar, and someone carved Jagannath, and Prabhupada came to install. But unfortunately the communication between the one who made the altar and who made the deities went wrong, and the deity was too big for the altar. And they found it out at the installation. Then there was a yajna, and Prabhupada wanted fruits to decorate the yajna shala, and he asked for fruits, and the devotees went to the kitchen and didn't come back. Now, when you send someone to get something and they don't come back, that's sort of quite agitating. Then they send someone else to go check on that person, and that person also didn't come back. That sort of really does it. So Prabhupada was getting restless and agitated. Where are the fruits? Meanwhile, the Dutch television was there, filming everything. And Prabhupada, somehow or other, got visibly annoyed. This was 1 month after the bubbling Maharishi Yogi had just been in Amsterdam. Bliss, giggle, smile, everything. So relaxed. And here's the big Hare Krishna Guru, all uptight. So, what is this? And he was getting more and more uptight. He was getting uptight to a point where he just got angry. After one point, finally, the ladies came back with the fruit, and what they'd done, they turned it into fruit salad. They didn't know. So, Prabhupada looked at it and says, "This is useless." Kishori in tears, and a big drama like that. And one after the other, everyone was chastised, and Prabhupada was very angry. And he was on TV. We unfortunately never got that footage. Still looking for it. There's a film museum. We have an application in trying to get it, but see if they can find it. But so far, not. And Prabhupada, at the end, he didn't care at all. He didn't care at all what people would think. He he cared about Krishna. And Krishna wasn't properly being cared for, and he cared for them. And at the end, to sort of as the cherry on the cake in that event, there was one person who had a question. Prabhupada said, yes. And the question was, why are you so angry? Just chant Hare Krishna. And Prabhupada put his hand in his bead bag and just chanted Hare Krishna, showing his humility there. So he was a completely genuine personality, always focused on Krishna's interest. And if we could be like that, then we could really preach very boldly and never be distracted or intimidated by any material circumstances.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, that was very beautiful and inspiring. So, from Prabhupada's presentation of his literature, we can see that we as Vaishnavas come in a line of boldness. If we look at, for instance, Prahlad Maharaj, a small boy, and he was standing up to his father, Hiranyakashipu, who was very powerful, who had overcome the demigods, and yet Prahlad Maharaj was so bold that he was able to preach Krishna consciousness to his demonic father, fearlessly. Because, as Srila Prabhupada was doing his service of preaching for Krishna, Srimati Prahlad Maharaj was simply depending on Krishna with full faith that Krishna is there. Krishna will help me. I am representing Krishna. So this, compared to Krishna, this Hiranyakashipu, my father, the best of the demons, is paltry. Just a little paltry thing. Similarly, Dhruva Maharaj, so bold. A small boy. He hears from his mother, where is Vishnu, where is God? Oh, I think he lives in the forest. He goes off by himself to the forest and meditates. And even Narada Muni comes and says to him, you're a Kshatriya, you're taking this insult that was given by your stepmother too seriously, you should go back, just play with the other boys. And he says, no, I want to succeed in my mission. I want to see Vishnu. I want to have a kingdom greater than my grandfather's. So bold. This is our line of boldness. Even we can look in Krishna's pastimes. Rukmini was destined to be married to Shishupal. She did not want to be married to Shishupal. So boldly she wrote a letter to Krishna, come and kidnap me. Not only did she say, come and kidnap me, but she told him when, the circumstances, where he should go. This is, was not considered stereotypically chaste, but she was chaste to Krishna. So that is superlatively chaste, transcendentally chaste in that way. Practically any of the Bhagavatam pastimes that we look at, we can see this element of boldness and how inspiring it is, how beautiful it is, and how it's used for Krishna, in Krishna's service. For instance, another great example, Hanuman. Not only did Hanuman jump over the ocean and search all over Ravana's kingdom for Sita, who Ravana had kidnapped, but when he was caught and brought before Ravana, he spoke very boldly, and then, when they set his tail afire, before he left, he set the kingdom of Sri Lanka on fire. I mean, that's really bold. This golden kingdom, going up in flames. So in that way, also in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, one example that comes to mind, there are many, that Sanatana Goswami was working for the Muslim government. He was a very key member of the Muslim government. And after he met Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he wanted to give up that service and simply join Lord Chaitanya and serve Lord Chaitanya. So instead of going to the court of the Nawab Hussain Shah, he said, I am sick, I'm so sorry, cannot come. And he stayed at home and he studied Srimad Bhagavatam with some Brahmins. And the Nawab depended on Sanatan, who was highly accomplished in many ways. So the Nawab sent his physicians to see what is the problem. And they came back, there is no problem. He's quite healthy, Sanatan Goswami. So the Nawab himself came and said, what are you doing? I'm depending on you. How come you're not coming to my court? And Sanatan Goswami said very boldly, now I no longer want to serve you, the Muslim head. And as a result, he was put in prison. But he never wavered in his conviction. And now from this point, I want to serve Mahaprabhu. I no longer want to serve this Muslim head. And as Maharaj was saying, Prabhupada was so bold in his preaching, and also in his acts, to leave India at such an age. He was 70 on the ship, on the cargo ship, with no support, no financial means. He had a letter of introduction from someone that he had never met. First time he had left India. I mean, what could be more bold than that? And each step along the way, he showed his boldness. When he finally got 26 Second Avenue, matchless gifts, Prabhupada had enough money for the down payment and the first month's rent. And he said later on, I had no idea where money would come from for the next month's rent, for the second month's rent. But he had that faith in Krishna, that this is something Krishna wanted. And we can also say that every one of Prabhupada's followers are bold, because this whole environment that we're in is pushing illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, gambling. So to stand up against that influence, to say, no, I'm not going to engage in those things, that's bold. So in that sense, every one of you who are doing that are bold. So congratulations for being bold. Please continue to be bold in those ways, and to be bold for Krishna also. Rupa Goswami, he writes in his Nectar of Instruction about reasons for fall down. So one of them is this prayasa, over-endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to achieve. So we all have this innate energy of boldness, and if we're not using it for Krishna, we can well use it for something mundane. If we're not using it to try to understand the absolute truth, come closer to the absolute truth, we may use that sense of boldness to over-endeavor for things that will distract us in our life's goal. So that's a cautionary note, not to be bold in a mundane way. And also there's a kind of boldness that is a wildness, you could say, an arrogance, a pride. That's the kind of boldness that we find in Hiranyakashipu and Ravana and other demons. So of course even Aghasura is described as all the demons. Putana, very bold, to come in with the intention of killing a baby. So this is the boldness that we can see around us in this world, and we want to avoid that boldness completely, knowing that it's influenced by the mode of ignorance and very antithetical to Krishna consciousness.
Questions?
Questions? I think so, no?
But you wanted to speak for maybe 15 minutes?
No, I thought that we would spend the rest on questions. Like you were doing, sort of like that. Just leave it in the middle.
So we want to invite you now for some questions on the topic, and we've covered the topic from various angles. I focused on Srila Prabhupada as a very clear example, and also cautioned that boldness that is not related to Krishna consciousness is detrimental. So, edited element of humility, Vaishnava etiquette. Mother Visakha gave us the all history of bold behavior of all great Mahajans, great devotees who are examples to us throughout the Bhagavatam and other historical personalities. She also gave us a caution, pointing at the demons and so on. So a question on any of these angles or even beyond.
Maharaj, you gave this example of Srila Prabhupada being bold in front of the cameras. What would you think that, I'm sure that Prabhupada did the best, of course, but you said he didn't care, what the people would think. But in one sense, we could wonder, how could he not be concerned about, the effect of this preaching of, seeing, showing this and giving a negative idea to the public.
Right. One should follow in the footsteps of the pure devotee, and one should not imitate the pure devotee. Srila Prabhupada very consistently made Krishna himself the priority, and since he was inviting the deity there, Krishna personally, the arrangement had to be proper, and whether it was being filmed or not, it was his duty to make sure that that was going on. He was not doing it as some sort of PR stunt. He was not trying to impress people. He was trying to impress Krishna, and he had faith that that would be successful. In Japan, there was in the city of Kobe a man who had been favorable before Prabhupada came. He wanted to give a house, and then there was some issue during the program that the man had also invited a Mayapur sannyasi. There was a small Vyasa-san for both the speakers and a very big one for the man's guru. So when the devotees saw that big Vyasa said, "Oh, Prabhupada is a very big guru, Jagat Guru, he should sit on that big Vyasa-san." So they made arrangements for Prabhupada to sit. They wanted Prabhupada to sit on the big Vyasa-san. With a lot of effort they convinced the man. Then the man said, "Okay, then both speakers should sit on the big Vyasa-san." And then Prabhupada spoke first. He sat on the big Vyasa-san. And then he was finished speaking. It was the time for the Mayavadi to speak. And Prabhupada refused to come down from the Vyasa-san. He didn't. He just stayed on there, and the host came, sort of like gesturing, "Come down." He didn't. He just stayed there. And in the end, the Mayavadi just had to sit on the little Vyasa-san. So Prabhupada sits on the big one, high up, and the little one, Mayavadi is speaking. Then after about 7 minutes or so, Prabhupada tells the devotees, "Kirtan." In the middle of the man's lecture, they drown him out with kirtan. And Prabhupada said, because later, Prabhupada clarified, the man was speaking in Hindi, so no one understood what he was saying. But Prabhupada said, in the beginning it was all right, but then he began to speak, the philosophy that, Krishna is not really the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but that the essence is Brahman, and so on. So then he just drowned him out. Never got the house, and didn't care. He cared in the interest of Krishna. And that's the key to his success. The fact that he didn't cater to the audience, but that he always focused on Krishna. That created a faith and made him very, very successful in this world. But we cannot imitate. We don't have that Krishna consciousness, so we're a little more sensitive to public opinion. Now it's Visakha's turn.
Another question?
Yes, he has her hand up.
This is a little bit related to yesterday's talk and what I've been hearing from both of you throughout the week. Maharaj yesterday was saying something about when we preach, the idea of I and mine reduces. And I feel personally that when I start preaching, when I'm presenting Krishna consciousness, like the idea of subtle forms of lust, like the desire to be adored and things like that's how you were speaking about Visakha, that becomes more prominent for me. And I was wondering, how is it that our boldness in preaching or our efforts in preaching, how can we make it that they're more to do with pleasing Krishna and less for the desire to be adored? I don't know if that makes sense.
Everyone heard the question? So it's a good question, and the danger is always there that we'll look for personal gain through our activities, including trying to spread Krishna consciousness. Money will come, influence will come. These are tests that Krishna is sending. So that's something to be very cautious about. It's really wonderful that you're conscious of it. Very often these things come and we're not even conscious that we're being perhaps swayed by them or drawn to them. But the fact that you're conscious is really important and encouraging, one could say. And because you are conscious of this, then you can take steps against it. That whatever influence I have on people through my preaching, let me ensure that that is going to Radha Gokulananda or Radhavanda Ishwara. Let me be sure that these people are going to put their energy into their chanting, into reading Prabhupada's books, and not for my benefit in any way. So in that way it becomes very practical. And I think as you go on with your preaching, that kind of mentality you'll find decreases and increases and decreases. So thank you for being aware of that. And thank you for bringing it up. Much appreciated. Would you like to add?
No, that's good. Yeah. First of all, I want to thank you for the lecture and the information you were giving. I was wondering about the mood of Prabhupada. It seems like he was completely free of false ego. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita also many times that one who is devoid of false ego, only he can realize Krishna. And by following Prabhupada's process, we will also be able to realize Krishna. So I'm wondering why or how is it possible to become free of false ego, and if it's maybe because nowadays we try to really get proud very easily. We think we are some devotee already, but in fact we are full of false ego. I think there's such a nice Kadamba player or anything. I wake up half an hour before Mangalarati and I chant Maharaj already. But is that, even though Prabhupada says you can just chant in this period of 2 hours, which is the perfect time to chant something else. So, yeah, I was wondering what's
I'll paraphrase the question. I mean, I can't fully capture it, but more or less the question is carrying on a theme similar to the previous question. The question how to overcome false ego, how to overcome taking pride in whatever skills we may have, or in the cause of devotional service. And how can we become purified? The kind of the crux of the question is how can we become purified? The purification in devotional service is happening in 2 ways. One is devotional service in itself a purifying effect. So any connection with devotional service is automatically purifying us. Now that we are here in the association of devotees, we get purified. Now that we are in front of the deities, we get purified. Everything here in Mayapur is purified already. The entire Mayapur carries purity. Purity from Prabhupada, who came here, and his presence changed Mayapur. All the chanting that happened, and so on. All the devotional service has purified the whole atmosphere, the animals, everyone, human beings alike, are all affected. So devotional service is, in that way, automatically purifying. Jnanatva, ajnanatva, knowingly or unknowingly, one is purified. Anarthapasanam saksat bhakti yoga madokshaje, that the anarthas, or the stumbling blocks from the heart, are just being removed by the process of devotional service. So that's the automatic purification. The other aspect of purification is the conscious effort that we make to correct ourselves when we're proud, that we're trying to be vigilant, that we try to take a humble position, that we, whenever we find faults, based on scripture and on hearing, we get an idea of what the desirable qualities are. And then when we see that we are not up to that standard, then we make a conscious effort to rectify. Both should be there, but it's said that of the two, the automatic purification and the conscious effort, that the automatic purification is the most powerful and is the most important. Therefore, yes, we try to overcome this false ego by a conscious effort, but it may not fully work. But by chanting Hare Krishna, by devotional service, we'll be purified. Therefore, we apply ourselves with great faith to the process of pure devotional service, trying to behave according to the prescribed ways for a Vaishnava. In that way, we can overcome a false ego.
So I was thinking about boldness and how we are warned not to get too fanatical, and in the early stages of Krishna consciousness that can happen. How do you distinguish between fanaticism and just enthusiasm?
I'll start and you finish. First of all,
What was the question, Mark?
oh yes, I'm going to repeat. How can you distinguish between fanaticism and enthusiasm in regards to being bold? The essence of devotional service is to take shelter. The essence is to not rely on one's own judgment, independent from the guidance of seniors. Either the acharyas, either what's recorded in the scripture, or senior Vaishnavas. So we sincerely try to be enthusiastic. And enthusiasm in this case means that we are ready to work very hard for Krishna with a lot of energy to push forward his mission of spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world. Fanaticism would mean that although we would push very hard, that at the same time we would harm other aspects of our devotional service. For example, in the name of preaching with a lot of enthusiasm, we wouldn't finish our rounds or chant very poor rounds. We would neglect our sadhana in the name of preaching, or we would, in the name of enthusiastically preaching, push ourselves to the foreground. We are the enthusiastic preacher, push others aside, elbow them out of the way. So those would be examples of a fanatic attitude. So enthusiasm is good, but always taking shelter and be open to be balanced by the Vaishnavas, by the scriptures, and so on. You want to add something?
Just to continue what Maharaj was saying, sometimes we can see by the results of our activities. So if we're becoming depleted physically or mentally, that's an indication that maybe we're doing too much. And also if people are reacting adversely to us, maybe our god brothers or god sisters or the devotees, maybe we're being too forceful or overdoing it in that way. And also even non-devotees, if we're approaching them with fanaticism, one could say, they will react a certain way. And perhaps we can see from that also. So in that sense we can see by the results of our activities, and also be sensitive if our well-wishers are coming to us and giving us some words of caution to take that seriously rather than to say, slough it off in some way. So it requires a little bit perhaps of maturity and sensitivity.
How can, on one hand, you be bold, but on the other hand, meet people where they are? In preaching in general, but also specifically bridge preaching, how is that bold? For example, if we're doing a session where we do pranayama and om meditation and then kirtan, how is that bold?
Yeah, boldness is more complicated than just speaking out strong. And Krishna is the only way. Boldness simply means to somehow or other not be intimidated by any circumstances, and to by the atheism of people, by all the preconceived wrong ideas people may have, and just to somehow or other bring them to Krishna consciousness. That may mean we use tact very carefully, and yes, we may do something that is not directly Krishna conscious, like a little hatha yoga. But alright, there's kirtan at the end. And the kirtan is just very bold. So we came in quietly in disguise, like secret agents in yoga disguise. And then we're right there with Hare Krishna, which is the full presence of Krishna. So the boldness doesn't always mean that we have to have a very strong behavior, but in the end, we have to deliver the substance. If we don't deliver the substance, then it's not really bold preaching, then it just becomes watered down. Nowadays, there's one footnote. nowadays it's often thought bridge preaching is the only way, but I think that when nowadays it's often new people that deal with new people, and the more experienced preachers, they'll get the people once they've been around and once they come, like here in this setting, and I think that when the more mature devotees come down to the ground and meet the new people, they don't need to do so much bridging, because people can see, hey, here's something genuine and with a lot of depth and realization, and they're ready for it. Like I find, people don't mind that I'm a monk. There are too many people that don't mind at all. They just want to talk to me. So sometimes we're too afraid to just be direct. It is, 2 minutes. Want to add something? I'll just take the microphone because we're at the end. We were supposed to stop at 10:20. That's 2 minutes, and since I'm leaving, I thought I'd just take the opportunity to say a word of thanks for inviting me here, for looking after me here, for giving me opportunities to speak and to sing. Just as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would thank his disciples, he said, "It is by your mercy that I'm in Krishna consciousness, because it's by your mercy that I can speak about Krishna." So it's by your mercy that I had an inspiring time. I thank all the senior devotees. I thank Janananda Maharaj for his great enthusiasm and his boldness for taking on a project like New Mayapur. I think I want to thank Mother Visakha for being here, speaking, for her wisdom, her soberness, and I also want to thank her for all the photos that she made, right? Because many of the photos that we are using, she has made them. Famous one of Krishna Balaram, where she tapped Tripurari on the shoulder, who stood right in the perfect spot, and she tried to get his attention and he wouldn't. She tapped him on the shoulder finally and said, "It's a nice spot, isn't it? You can see everything from there. But if you would let me stand there and take a picture, then the whole world could see." Then Tripurari got it, Step aside. And we have that picture of Prabhupada with the peacock fan. A few, I guess you stood there, the Chamara also, peacock fan. Yeah, very good. That was, and I want to thank Gopaswami Prabhu for making Little India, which is a lot more than a tourist attraction, but which is a deep place of bhajan, and where he is actually deeply absorbed in the mood of Vrindavan and whatever else is there, and he took us there, and therefore it was a deep spiritual experience being there. And Agni Dev, who's been graced with this beautiful voice and who just loves to sing and shares with us that singing, who spent years in Mayapur, absorbing the culture of Bengali Bhajan. Baji Bihari was here sharing his insights and sharp intellect. Ter Kadamba, who spent time with the devotees. I think these events are very significant, very potent, and we need them. All of us, we need such gatherings again and again, so that we can get that enthusiasm and depth, so that we can actually come to bold preaching. And then by that bold preaching, we will surely overcome our self-centeredness and our own personal agenda, and the agenda of Krishna just takes over. And that will be wonderful. So looking forward to seeing you all sometime soon, somewhere in the UK or wherever else you came from. Thank you very much. I'll say goodbye.
Well, just a quick second for the scores yesterday.
Oh, the scores, Maharaj.
Talking about bold preaching and enthusiasm. It was astonishing to see the devotees yesterday. The head count of devotees in tour on the Harinam Sankirtan, it came up to approximately, within 1 or 2 heads, 152 persons. Yeah. That's, I don't know if that's a record for tours, or it's certainly a record since probably the 80s at least, maybe the whole time, I don't know. 152 devotees, as far as we can see. And of course most of the devotees were from other countries, the Pandava Saint. All the devotees from the Pandava Saint who so enthusiastically, maybe a little over-enthusiastic in certain areas of the street, very enthusiastically chanted and danced, and also distributed so many books. It was inconceivable. I'd just like to mention the books were sponsored. I mentioned that yesterday, but they were sponsored by His Holiness Kadamba Kanana Swami. Yeah. And yesterday, altogether, everybody, I don't know how many devotees were distributing, but we distributed 19 Bhagavad Gitas, 1 Srimad Bhagavatam, 30 medium books, 240 small books, 171 magazines, 2 Arabic books, a total of 463 literatures. The Saint devotees, not including the temple devotees, were also distributing. The Pandava Saint devotees distributed more or less 300 of those 463 literatures. I'd like to thank you all very, very much for coming out yesterday and deluging tours with transcendental nectar. Prasadam was also going out, I don't know how much, several trays of halava. And so much mercy showered yesterday. We thank you all very much. And invite you all to come back again and again take part in sharing the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. And you're welcome to come and stay. And you can join us regularly in service here anytime. Thank you all very much indeed. Hare Krishna. Thanks to Kadamba Kanana Maharaj Ki. Visakha. You're staying another week, is that right? Or more?
Just
more.
Well, you can tolerate of me as a week. A week is enough.
We have a plan. Hare Krishna.
Let us express.
Sankirtan Ki Jai. Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. Transcendental Prasad Distribution Ki Jai. Pandava Saint Ki Jai.
We can also express our gratitude to Kadamba Kanana Swami for his wisdom and his wonderful example of Krishna consciousness and his beautiful, beautiful kirtans.